Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I have a fabulous guest with us today, and I cannot wait to introduce you to Skip. But before I do me a favor, follow this podcast. It makes such a world of difference for people to see it, for people to get a little more productive joy in their lives, and we want that more than anything. So follow, subscribe, do your thing, and then share it with all the humans you know. That's going to make a big difference as well. So just like always, we have a fabulous guest with us today. We have Skip Willcox. Skip Willcox is lots of things. He is an entrepreneur. Good things. He is a mortgage professional in lots of different realms. He's also a podcast host, which we'll get into a little bit later. He's an avid sports fan. He was specific, though, MLB, NFL, and college football. He also plays tennis, and he is a dad to 3 fabulous kiddos and a husband. And fun fact, he is a Lego enthusiast, and he got some new Legos just recently. So congratulations to that, Skip. And
well, thank you, Frankie. It's true. It's true. We did an early Father's Day, and my wife got me new Lego sets for Father's Day. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm kind of proud of myself, actually, because you know what? I get some joy out of doing those.
Well, and that's why we're here today, is to create a little productive joy. So, Skip, I think that's fabulous. My son is a huge Lego fan, and I think always will be for his whole entire life.
Right.
So what would you say to our listeners to get them super excited about this episode in like 30 seconds or less?
Ooh, well, I would say, Chrissy, that in 30 seconds or less, that's tough. All right, guys, what you're going to pick up on this episode is you're going to have a good, easy way to remember a set of skills, all right, that are going to help you throughout your work day, your personal day, doesn't matter what it is, to keep what's really important at the forefront and help you be more joyful day in and day out.
I love that. I like to say you have to keep the main thing, right? Like you can't be so all over the place that you're missing the mark. Okay, so let's back up because you did not start here, but you are here. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey. You can start with little tiny Skip if you want to, or you can go with a mid-adult to adult. But ultimately, what got you from, okay, I'm going to go on a career path to the career path that you're
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll start at college because we don't need to have the whole biography there, right? So I am a graduate of the University of Georgia, go Dogs, graduated with a degree in economics and a degree in political science. And to those of y'all listening out there, you're thinking, my God, that sounds a lot like somebody who should go to law school. And guess what? That's what I was supposed to do. But did I do that? I did not. I got to the end of that path and got ready to take the next step. I decided 3 more years of school at 21 just did not sound appealing to me. So I disappointed my family and decided to not go that route. But you know what I did do? I did get a job because I had to have something. And at that point, it was late in the game, right? And so what I did was search for anything I could find. And this is in the early 2000s when the first refi boom in the mortgage business was happening. And so anybody could get a job in mortgage. I was very fortunate. I had some connections. I found a position in capital markets. And for those of y'all out there that don't know, that's kind of how all the money's made and generated and how bonds are traded, and mortgages are sold, blah, 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 blah. And they needed somebody in that department. And so I got a job. And guys, 22 years later, here we are still in the mortgage business. All right. Mortgage has been very, very good to me. I like to think I've been good to it as much as I can be. But yeah, I fell into it, Christy. I fell into it.
You know what? And I get it. And I actually, Jason, my husband, is also in the mortgage industry, and he kind of fell into it as well. And our son actually just started as he's a funder for a title company. So I get it. And yet you didn't just follow the typical, okay, I'm going to become a loan officer and stay there or anything like that. Instead, you've morphed quite a bit into what you're doing now. So you really are coaching people to be better at their jobs. Is that an accurate description of what you're doing?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, after my stint in capital markets, I did originate for many years. And then I actually made a change to third-party origination and correspondent sales, which again, if y'all don't know what it is, don't worry about it. Just think, loan originator is business to consumer and TPO is business to business. All right. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I started getting a lot of people come to me for questions and that kind of thing. I guess because I've been around a minute and I suppose I did a good job. So I started kind of informally taking on some coaching clients. I would say, I could make this a thing. I really enjoy this, right? And so I formed Keiros Sales Group at the same time, basically, that I formed my podcast, which is the Big Skip Energy podcast. And I formed Keiros Sales Group with the intent of just doing coaching and training more formally. And fast forward to last year, I bit the bullet, took it from an informal thing to a kind of a side hustle, part-time gig, to saying, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and bite the bullet and do it full time. And so here we are. I am now 8 months into it full time. And luckily I did have that time beforehand where I can kind of work out some of the kinks, but it never really prepares you for full-time entrepreneurship. I really enjoyed it, Christie. It's been fun. The first half year it's been educational, it's been rewarding, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. But yes, long answer to your question, I do train and coach.
That's awesome. And okay, so let's back up just a second before we talk about how you coach, because I know you have a very specific way that you get people to understand the foundation of what they need to be great salespeople. But you took a leap, and there are people listening right now who are looking for more productive joy. And maybe that they think that the productive joy they're going to find is going to come in going out on their own and, doing what you've done and taking something that's a side hustle and turning it into their main source of income. What piece of advice would you have for people who might be trying to make that leap like you were 8 months ago? What would you tell them that they need to make sure that they do?
Well, Christy, I'm going to start off by saying, if I refer back to when I was thinking about doing law school, right, and I said no, well, that was not the only time I tried to get out of the mortgage business. All right. There were two, or I think maybe three other instances where I looked into doing something else. And I never really got too far into it. Once was I actually revisited the concept and the path of going to law school again, and I just never did it. And the reasons that I didn't do it then weren't really clear to me. The reasons I didn't do it then are now much, much clearer to me. It's because it didn't give you that feeling. It didn't give me that feeling. It's like it's what you should do or could do versus what you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that differentiated those previous times that change reared its ugly head or not ugly head versus now. I had the opportunity to do what I'm doing now full time about a year ago. I said, no, I'm going to take the more cautious route and pass on it. And that turned out to not be a good decision. That turned out to be a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? I'm done with putting off what I know I really enjoy, which is this.
Yeah.
And yeah, so to anyone out there who is thinking about it, who's scared, first of all, I'm sure most of y'all heard this, but never make a decision based on fear. Okay. Yeah. I don't care. I don't care what it is. But having a career decision like this is important because you have to pick, and this is going to sound kind of funny, Christy, as we talked about this last week a little bit. It's going to be kind of funny because you got to be sure that if you're going to take this leap, it's not only something that you're passionate about, but it's also something that you're good at. So you got to follow your talents. The talents will make you money while you can pursue the passion, right? And that's one important metric to ask yourself. But kind of like with proposing to your significant other, or starting a new sport, or whatever kind of new thing in your life, it's important to realize that there's never a perfect time. You could always think of some reason to not do it. And so you have to really sit down and say, okay, this is my support group. This is who's on my team. Do they support it? Yes. How's it going to affect them? Or if you're by yourself, you know what? Ask yourself, okay, how is this going to affect the rest of my life, right? And then just do it. Just do it. A blind leap of faith is not something that I think gets enough credit, because If you fail at it, okay, so what? So you failed. You want to try it again? Okay, look back and see what you screw up. Or you may get into it and be like, damn, this really isn't for me.
Yeah.
That's okay too. At least you know you tried.
Right.
There will always be another W-2 job out there. All right. There will always be someone looking to hire. The worst that can happen is you fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fail. I mean, that acronym, right? No, you're not going to die from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fail is the first attempt in learning, right? That's what that stands for in some eyes. So I love what you said. Well, you said lots of wonderful things, but I really appreciated.
I rambled a little bit. Sorry, Christie.
No, you didn't ramble, not at all. What you did was you made it clear that it's not going to be easy, but it is going to be worth it. And you have to just get sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Like you've got to say, all right, I'm done. Like you actually even used your hands. I was done, right? And I think many of us get to that point and then we go, but right, and we keep pushing through the thing that doesn't bring us joy. So let me ask you that question, because I know, well, first of all, I know you have some pretty good answers to this, but I'd like you to tell this audience today, this day, if you had to describe productive joy, how would you describe it?
For me personally,
Yes.
for me, it is when I stand up in front of a group of people for 4 hours, 8 hours, a couple of days, or even if it's just a random discussion in front of an an audience or an individual coaching session. When I get done with that, after the energy I've poured into it, I get joy from that one person that I can see the look on their face, the notes, see them taking notes, see them nodding, see them discussing amongst themselves. I know that if in a room of 100 people, if 99 people didn't pay attention to anything I had to say, but one person got something from it to make their life better, that's what gives me joy.
I really like that. Different from maybe the way some of us attack it, right? Like, okay, I've got to get 100% of these people to listen to me and love me and think I'm really great. And the reality is you're never going to get 100% of anybody.
No, coaching and training has really taught me that you don't do this for the 99%. You do this for the 1% that actually will get it. I mean, and you know this because you've done the same types of things. If you're, again, in a room of 100 people and you're training them on something, let's say, I'm just going to throw out random numbers here. 80% will probably not be paying that much attention. All right. 15% will jot down some notes, look at it. And then that 5% may actually take something that you've said that's actionable and do something with it after you leave. That's the percent that we as trainers have to focus on.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually one of the things. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no.
It's one of the things that I really try and emphasize with my customers too, because someone comes to me for training. They say, Skip, I don't like prospecting. I don't like doing this because it's the rejection constantly. I get that, but you're focusing on the no's when if you got the yeses, that's what you focus on too, to kind of keep you going, right?
Well, that's the joy, right? I always say that joy is a choice, and you can choose to look for the good, or you can choose to look for the bad. Both are always there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what you're saying. Salespeople need to do is focus on the yeses, not the nos, and recognize.
You're right from the nos, absolutely. But
yes, because that's failure, right? Like that's the first attempt at learning. So I know you have a strategy called OUTPACE, and that is kind of the foundation for all things sales. And I would argue that every human listening is in sales in some capacity. Like I always say, they're all teachers too, right? We're always trying to get somebody to believe in something that we have to say. So how does your OUTPACE plan work, and what can you teach us today?
So OUTPACE, Christie, is an acronym that I developed and copyrighted for me. And it's an easy way for anyone to think of a set of critical skills that are vital to your business life, your personal life, whatever the case is. All right. So I'll just take you through the letters really quick. Okay. O is organization. You've got to be an organized person. Now, there are a couple of different ways we could talk about that, but I know we don't have time to get in all that today. All right. U is understanding. All right. Think empathy when we talk about that. T is time management. All right. Salespeople are notorious for being poor time managers. P is positivity. I know that's obviously a big deal for you, but I will say that when we talk about positivity, it's not walking around with a permanent smile and being fake about it all the time. All right. That's not what I coach on. I know that's not what you teach either.
No.
I switch the A up every now and then. All right. So yeah, so sometimes it's active listening, sometimes it's adaptability. Just kind of depends on what I feel like doing. Both are critical. C is controlling your emotions. All right. Very, very important and not easy to do. And finally, the E is education. Always being a learner. Those are the 7 pieces of Outpace. And I use that as the base of the pyramid for salespeople, or frankly anybody out there who's trying to learn a skill, because that creates the real human connection, right? Those 7 skills will do more for you than any guideline, any bottom line. It doesn't matter. In a world, especially in our world, mortgage banking, real estate, that kind of thing, we are so focused on the numbers and the pluses and minuses and the bottom lines and the commissions and that kind of stuff. That's the result. That's not what matters and and what gets you there. Reconnecting people to people is going to pay bigger dividends than any type of transactional numbers that you can throw out there.
It definitely is. And I think it's a lost art sometimes, whether it's that we just get so used to, okay, I'll just shoot him an email or I'll just, send him a text message. Sometimes you need to pick up the phone. I know that human connection or going into an office and seeing somebody or taking that extra step can really make a big difference. I kind of appreciate that you had this beautiful acronym, and then the A is a shift from active listening to adaptability. I would say you're using the A in the A and being adaptable.
That's correct.
So I appreciate that. Which one of those 7 things do you think is the hardest for people?
The hardest, I would say, is probably the U is the
Okay.
hardest. But it's also tricky because they don't realize it a lot of times. I would say the most frequently requested emphasis is on the T, the time management.
Time management. Well, you and I, when I was on your podcast, talked about SMART goals, and that
Yes.
everybody doesn't know what that actually means. This is kind of shocking to me because I feel like that's been around for a long time. But the timely part of a SMART goal is definitely not as easy. So I don't know if you've ever read anything or heard anything by Carey Nieuwhof, but he talks about, his book is called At Your Best, and he talks about red, yellow, and green zones, and the fact that we have red, yellow, and green zones in our day. And if we try to do something green zone, which is when you're at your sharpest, your best, you're, at your best. If you're doing something that should be done in your green zone and your red zone, it can take us like 5 times as long to get it done. And I think that's what happens a lot of times for people with time management. It isn't so much that they don't have time, and I'm putting that in air
Oh
quotes.
no, that's never the issue.
It's that they are trying to do things in their red zone and hitting a wall, or they are not prioritizing their day very well. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, especially with the prioritization piece of it, that there are far too many reactionary people when it comes to attacking their day, and far too few proactive people. I'm a firm believer in time blocking. That's one of the core, I guess, sub skills that I would teach in that time management piece of it. And what gets scheduled gets done. People can come up with every excuse in the world about, I've got too many interruptions, I got too much of this going on, I get pulled in too many different directions. But that's all it is excuses. It's a matter of prioritization and actually blocking off time for it. And Christie, it's tough. It is hard. But kind of going back to the U for understanding, that the empathy piece, I think, gets a lot of nods, but it's also one of the most difficult to really try and do, because let's just look at adaptability. If I throw that one in there, or even active listening for that matter, we talk about those. One of the key ways to become more adaptable is to think about how what's going on affects others. And how, because we all handle change differently, right? And thinking about how it may be affecting others will help us become a better helper and create a higher personal connection with somebody else. That's kind of the crazy thing about the adaptability piece and empathy, really, is that if it's a one-way street, that's better than nothing. But for it to really, really grab hold and take effect, it's gotta be interlocked, right?
Yeah, I agree. And what I think is important to remember too is that you have to have empathy for yourself a little bit too,
Mhm.
right? That giving of grace and saying, hey, I didn't handle that very well, but
Yeah.
I'm going to do better tomorrow, or I'm going to shift this way. I think we often take that failure that you're talking about that's necessary and
Mhm.
we make it a bad thing and we say, oh, no, I did wrong, or I did bad, or I didn't, whatever.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I just need to be a little more grace giving and a little more empathetic to myself.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
from there. So that,
We actually see that a lot in highly empathetic individuals is that they are very hard on themselves, but they are typically much more understanding with others.
yeah.
It goes back to exactly what you just said.
And that doesn't surprise me, right? Like we
Yeah.
do we do well for others that we never give ourselves that same grace or worth or any of those things.
Yeah.
I think, and I really love the tie back to joy because
Mhm.
it really is an opportunity. So when you go to these places and talk about outpace, I'm
Yeah.
sure that more than just one of the hundred, the hypothetical hundred, is
Yeah.
really gaining a lot from it. So
Mhm.
because you're giving them something practical that they can do. I love it.
For sure.
Would people find you if they wanted to have a little more big skip energy?
Oh, well, if they want to find out more about me or connect with me, or hey, if you want to have me come do Outpace for your team, I'd love to do that too. They can go to LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Just look me up, Skip Willcox with two L's in Wilcox. I'm not hard to find. You can also go to KeirosSalesGroup.com. Again, type me into Google. I'll pop up. It's not hard.
And spell
Uh,
Kairos.
no, Kairos.
Good,
Thank you.
good. Well, thank you so much, Skip, for your time and your energy today. I do have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you
Ooh,
willing?
let's do it.
This is my favorite part. Okay. Question number one. What is your definition of fun?
Fun is when you are doing something because you want to and you leave the situation with a different feeling than when you left.
Hmm. How do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
I think that you show up as your authentic self when you are the most comfortable.
Mm, I agree. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
By showing by reflecting and showing graciousness,
Hmm.
what you do have as opposed to what you don't have.
Yeah. And that goes back to the grace that you show yourself, too. That's kind of
Yeah.
important. Okay, last question, tough question. So you
Okay.
said some really great things today, and I know that people are going to walk away with lots of new ideas and they're going to latch on to one. So which one thing do you really want people to hold on to after listening today?
The one thing would be if y'all are picking out this, for example, one letter of that outpace. All right. I know we talked a little bit about time management understanding. Focus on E, education. All right. Always be a learner. Well, and I don't talk, and I'm not talking about school. Okay. You can be, that's great, but always be a learner. Always be open to new things, try new things. I love the question of when's the last time you tried something for the first time? Right.
Mm.
And so always continue learning. That will tremendously help in your improvement of the previous six skills.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much for giving back a little bit of joy today. It was a
It's been my pleasure.
all right. And listeners, the great guests just keep showing up, which is a wonderful thing. And we're so, so grateful for it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing productive joy. Thank you for sharing it with all the humans you know. Skip, thank you for being a guest.
Absolutely.
You could have been anywhere else today, but you chose to be with us. And for my friends who are listening, I need you to do me a favor and figure out a way to turn fun into action.